Americans overwhelmingly sympathize with Israel. As new polling shows, there's been a significant uptick in support among Democrats, who'd been growing less supportive over the years. One Gallup poll from back in March showed 49% of Democrats, quote, standing with Palestine, only 38% supporting Israel. But in the wake of the attacks, President Biden making it very clear the U.S. stands with Israel, and it looks like Democrats have followed Biden's lead. A Fox News poll now finding 68% of respondents side more with the Israelis, a 9% jump since May of 2021, largely in part due to rising support among Democrats, 59% who say they side with Israel, while 64% of Americans approve of sending weapons and military equipment in response to the October 7th attack. Now, that number remained nearly as high among Democrats. But as the war drags on, and there will sure be more horrible images coming out of Gaza, civilians, children killed, even if Israel does the best that it can to avoid casualties, will U.S. support, Democratic support in particular, fade over time? We're going to hit a number of topics. That's going to be our first one with Mick Mulvaney, the former acting White House chief of staff under President Trump and former Republican congressman. He's also a NewsNation political contributor. And A. Scott Bolden, the former chair of the D.C. Democratic Party. All right, Mick, let me start with you. I mean, do you think that support for Israel, because this isn't going to happen fast, right? This is going to be a prolonged process. This is going to be a prolonged war. Do you think that support for Israel fades over time?
I think they're slowing that risk, Dan. Keep in mind, the money that the president is requesting this week, the $100 billion, I think only contains roughly $10 billion for Israel. The lion's share of it is for Ukraine. That $10 billion is just the first drop in the bucket. So there's going to be regular requests for support for Israel as long as this conflict goes on. I'm not sure that the Biden administration can keep his party together very long on this issue. The Republicans are fairly united. This is a topic that sort of unites most Republicans, but the Democrats divides them almost right down the middle. Your number 60-40 sounds about right. And the longer it goes on, I think the harder time he's going to have keeping especially his progressive wing, the pro-Palestinian wing of the Democrat Party, in line with his policies. So it's going to be a huge challenge, I think, for the administration going forward. And
we'll talk about that in 1 second. Scott, I probably should have started with you on this because this is your party. Do you think that Democratic support is going to fade?
Mick represents the Republicans. I love it when he talks about my Democratic Party. But that being said, I slightly disagree with Mick in that the Democrats are at 64, and I've seen it up as high as 68% in support of Israel. Israel's too important of a partner to this country, to Biden, Democrats and Republicans. There is a wing of the Democratic Party that supports Palestinians. That's not Hamas. I don't think anybody supports Hamas. But the pictures of women and children and innocent citizens, whether they're in Israel or Gaza, who are Palestinians, who are innocent victims to war, that pulls on all of us. And I think what the liberal wing, or the far left, is really talking about is why aren't we asking for a ceasefire?
Right,
why aren't we asking for
regardless of what they're asking,
and why aren't we trying to resolve this war?
But Scott, regardless of what they're asking for, and I'll talk about the far left in a second, it's that sort of attitude, those sort of questions, right, that I think is going to lead. I think the answer to my question then, and tell me if I'm not being fair here, it seems the answer to my question is yes. Support for Israel will almost certainly fade among the Democratic Party. Based on what you just said, no?
No, I don't, because I think you can support a peace accord or a peace plan. I don't think the far left, because they want the president to be more pro-Palestinian or Palestine, or they want him to be fair in his comments and the media to be fair in his comments when there's death in both Gaza as well as Israel. That's what they're pushing for. I don't think our support, Democrats' support for Israel, is going to wane at all. What will cause it to wane, if I may very quickly, is that if we send billions to these war-torn countries like Ukraine and Russia, the Ukraine-Russian war, and now you're sending more to Israel and for their war with Hamas, then you start to question, Republicans and Democrats, can we afford to be supporting these war efforts when we've got tremendous issues and challenges with poverty and other issues in the U.S.?
I know you don't agree with me, but as I read between the lines, I hear that as, boy, Democratic support is going to fade because there's not going to be a peace accord. It's not going to happen.
You're lawyering me.
I get it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.